right now, I'll get hard.
I saw right when you
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right, and I'm not sure it's 100%. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the pledge to the flag. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the sign-in sheet, Elaine Weiler, we're gonna get to the solar farm, so just maybe put you on hold for a little bit.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Approval of the minutes for June 12th monthly meeting. Any questions?
No, I don't remember.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Jeff Fine's not here yet from Craft, so we're just gonna hold off on his. We'll do the SEO report. Police report. Mr. Price.
Just right off the top, I can't comment again on the mileage, why they're the same. I think that's a typo. Just wanted to point that out.
Month after month.
I noticed that, but. All right, patrol hours for the township, 217. Total number of incidents, 182, which required 83 hours. 23 crash investigations, 19 citations issued, 0 non-traffic citations, 28 hours doing traffic checks, 22 hours on paperwork, 41 vehicle stops, 43 hours on follow-up for criminal investigations, and 3 hours of court. District 2, which is the North District above 222, our criminal investigators investigating a check cashing fraud where a check was cashed a different amount than was initially written for. There was a burglary reported at a residence with an ex-boyfriend entered the home and did damage to contents. The victim, in the end, refused to prosecute because the ex agreed to pay for damages. Criminal investigators investigating a sexual abuse case that occurred at a township residence. There was a theft of multiple items from a business. Total loss was $1,000 or $1,100. And then multiple domestics within the district. District 3, which is the 222 corridor, defined trespass, responded to a township business for a female who was showing her genitalia while exercising. The female became verbally abusive when asked to leave the property, prompting the business to call the police. Trespass warning was given to the female. A wanted person, while investigating a vehicle accident, police learned that one of the drivers was also wanted for an out-of-county felony warrant. The driver was taken into custody and transported to central processing with that incident. And then a disorderly investigated at a male went into a township business and threatened employees. No charges were filed at this point. District 4, which is the south side of the township, Forgery counterfeiting, stopped the vehicle for expired registration. The driver was found to be under suspension. The vehicle had no insurance or inspection. And then found that the inspection stickers were altered or forged. Charges were filed against them. Just as an update, also, before I move on to the equipment thing, as I talked about last week with the situation of the person with the green laser light, we do actually now have a suspect, and that suspect is going to be interviewed by a criminal investigator. So we took a lot of time and put into that situation, but that definitely did become a dangerous one for the several drivers that they shined the lights into their eyes. So the new Ford Explorer was completely outfitted and placed into service. We held our annual ice cream event on June 3rd in the park, and it was a success. And grants were requested and submitted for new vests.
Okay. You guys have been busy.
That is true, sir.
And, you know, good work that you're doing. So, all right. Are you going to be here a few minutes?
Yes, yeah, I'll be here for a while.
Okay. We'll go to, back to code enforcement, Jeff.
Okay. You want to do something else first? Give me a minute to get my papers.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Virginville Fire Company report. Chief will send it at a later date. Walnut Town Fire report. Any questions? Discuss storm damage. Robbie,
That's just a general thing.
do you want to give us an update on
Again,
what you know?
what does it matter where to start?
Nope. Start wherever you think. Just give us an overview.
First thing we'll start, I guess, is over at Southview. Obviously, mostly everybody here is aware of these guys here. I forget the big guy up there in the green. I spoke with him last evening. Explained to him that we're trying to get permits to finish the project. We're unsuccessful with that so far. And now it's turned into a massive project to fix something that potentially could have been fixed at an earlier date. I guess the next step would probably be to apply for another emergency permit to start probably at Park Road and go all the way down past Timothy now. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that while you're here.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
The bridge they put in Timothy is eating away on the right side. It's 3 foot in, the bottom of it's just gonna cave in. It took out a lot of blacktop. So the other side is all right when you put them stones in. The right side going in. I unplugged it yesterday to get all the water to go in, so stop flooding out the yards. That's at about 6 o'clock. It's pretty clogged. So, but it did eat the rocks away. And if you look underneath it, it goes in about 2.5 foot. So the blacktop is gonna cave in when the trash trucks are gonna come in. It will cave in. They do run that side pretty good.
So what's the temporary fix? I think.
A temporary fix on that would be fixing it, but if they would have put a square tube in that thing instead of 2 pipes.
Yeah,
these guys would've been golden.
I think.
That would have been golden. That would have been remember I graded up?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay,
I think we have to relook at that whole.
That whole thing.
That whole thing needs to be relooked at.
It's a lot more complex than what it seems to be. There's obviously, it's a dead end road. There's only one way in, one way out. And also there's a gas line that goes underneath those 2 pipes. I know Dean was out to look at it. We had a couple discussions on what to do there. And it's just something we just need to do it.
Yeah, that square tube was in there. These guys would have had no problems.
Right.
See it blocks up and everything up above it comes down and it just goes out.
Yeah, we gotta fix that the correct way. What is the process for that, Scott?
I have to look at what Gary put into that one before, but I think, was that the one that was a grant that was a possibility we were going to go after?
No, we did that. We covered that. We just went through the permitting process.
I think there was, what Scott's referring to was probably Timothy for a grant to do like a box culvert.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
the
think
one.
we-
Isn't that the one with the gas line?
Yeah, that's the one with the guy.
Yeah, that's the one, I'm sorry, that's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, we were looking at the possibilities there because with the box culvert, it got real expensive.
I think one of the issues that happened since the last time I looked, the requirements for the grant changed, and the amount of survey, the amount of just the data you need to go into that, plus what they're looking for to be done with the existing, is to make it much larger. And in a brief discussion after knowing that the guidelines changed and got more strict, that kind of ran into some major issues with that gas line being there. I think that was going to be a need to have that line lowered or something along those lines if we did something on the box or whatever.
Well, I think a box culvert's going to be the only thing that's going to work. Pipes don't work.
Pipes don't work.
We've tried that.
Okay.
No, that doesn't work.
Yeah,
And they're sized as big as we can go now. So,
I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I know Gary's got a lot of time on that. And I can talk to him about it tomorrow. He's around, so I can look into that one. Is this just the Timothy one, or this is also?
we've got issues all the way up.
We got issues all the way up to South View, but we gotta definitely fix Timothy. I don't know what we do.
Well, Timothy would have been fixed the right way. He had any problem with issues up the
Yeah.
top. That would have covered the whole thing.
Agreed, but now we gotta move forward, we gotta
Now
fix
we
it,
gotta move forward because
Move.
it just wasn't,
move the right way. Robbie, are you able to reinforce that we don't have to close the road there, or are you gonna look at that, or what's?
I'll be over there tomorrow to check it out, see what we can do for temporary fix for the time being.
Okay. Mr. Drunkenmiller, you're from the Conservation District. What do we have to do? And I don't have to put you on the spot, but there seems some confusion about getting this done. This is a bad situation over there that has to be fixed, and it doesn't have to be fixed in 2 years from now. What do you need from us to get this done? I mean, the bottom you were over there, you've seen it, so you know what I'm talking about, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
What do we need to do to get this permit, to get this opened up? I mean, this could have been fixed when we did it 2 years ago. We just had to come down a little farther. I realize there's regulations, but here we are 2 years later, and it wiped out the whole bank and made it 10 times worse than what it needed to be. What do you need from us to get this done?
Well, first of all, that permit will probably have to go up to Harrisburg to the DEP. You're probably looking at an emergency permit.
Yes.
So that'll have to go up to DEP for their review and approval. I believe I talked to Gary about that last year, I believe, and that's kind of the last time I heard from him. He asked me some questions similar to what you're asking, and I directed him to Ed Music, who is in charge of the Waterways and Wetlands program, permitting program up in Harrisburg. So that's
out of your district, that's to Harrisburg.
We would not handle that
Okay.
directly.
And that was the discussion. Gary did have a conversation with them, and I think when the work was being done above the area that didn't get completed,
Correct.
I don't know if there was kind of time or money that ran out or it didn't complete that, but,
It wasn't time or money.
okay.
It
So I
was
think
100% the government,
that I
not this
think
government.
the reason that they said no at that time was the same answer he got when he discussed it with them again. That it was beyond what the emergency permit was, that's where the creek was.
Yeah, they gave us
It
a
was-
very defined scope of work. They only let us touch a certain portion of that street. And we knew right then below that was gonna be problematic without fixing the other side.
They only went a couple hundred feet up the creek.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, we did the top part. We did what we had.
I want that shit and everything.
Yeah, all shit and everything.
Yeah, and all that work that you guys did washed away.
Didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
Right
It
down.
was gone.
And all that work was part of the emergency permit. The part that wasn't done was what they said was beyond what is covered in emergency permit. They wanted to see additional permits submitted and applied for. And that was the discussion I believe that Gary had was, can we submit this under an emergency permit again? Because I believe that's what the thought was. resubmitted, see, he had made that call to talk to him about.
Well, I have the email
Doing
string
this.
from 2020 here regarding this problem. And this is when we addressed the part that we had up top there. We immediately went back and said, hey, this is a Band-Aid, but we need to fix this down below there or this is gonna happen again. And here we sit 3 years later. This was actually August 26th, 2020.
2020.
August 2nd and August 4th were the 2 dates that whole area over there flooded.
Right.
And because of bureaucratic red tape, here we sit, 2.5 years later, with it much worse.
Yep.
So what's our move forward? Mr. Drummond says we gotta go to the DP. What do we need to go to the DP? We have to go get an emergency permit. We gotta fix this correctly.
And we can approach it with the emergency permit again. I think what they're gonna ask is that we also go for a similar stream bank stabilization.
Can't you just put Jersey barriers up through? It's better
Get
than
into the-
putting stone there.
If you don't have the permit to do the work, then you're in violation of the.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what
streams,
tells
and
us
that's
that, or
the
we would have
issue.
done this long already. So what do we have to do to get the permit? The whole 9 yards, what do we have to do?
I think we can submit for the emergency permit, but I think what they're gonna wanna see is the stream bank stabilization as well. Would that be probably through their office then?
Yeah, that, because you'd be going with a GP11 permit for that. And
And
that's
what what does that take to get
Even
that?
without a culvert in that immediate, we're talking about with the culverts as well.
Yeah. Well, this is the topic.
That is tough.
This is from Southview to Park Road. We have to get that fixed. And
Yeah,
then we
and-
gotta deal with the culvert on Timothy. We gotta put,
If it's not the culvert, you wouldn't need a GP11 then?
probably will.
Are you with the?
Yeah, just because of the length of the work that is required.
See, there's another issue. There's railroad ties and debris coming down that
Yeah.
should not be coming down, like logs and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Railroad.
Why is there railroad ties coming down?
that's coming from outside our township. I don't know how we even address that.
That's right. They're up on the track. They go on the track.
I mean, to get that immediate area, we'd have to survey it to an extent to establish where that stream is and go for the GP11, which would also, you have to go for the.
And I think part of the conversation last time when we went through this process was that there was some discussion about where they didn't want to alter the natural flow of the creek. I said, well, I had a problem. The creek went straight at one time. Anytime we put a curve in it, we're asking for trouble, and we're gonna have the same trouble.
And now the whole curve there it's gonna wash your house away eventually if it's not
I know.
fixed.
Well, yeah, it washed the shed away, and me and my father were out there risking our lives to try and get the debris through because the water was coming up through, and I live right there at Knoll Court, and it washed the foundation away from my house.
So this is a situation that needs to be fixed, and the red tape has to end. If we gotta go to DEP, then I gotta get help from legislators to get this pushed through. We're not gonna sit around and wait on this anymore. This is a mess.
Yeah, it's made.
This is a mess, and we talked about it month after month, and we kicked the ball back and forth. Whatever we gotta do, Scott, you gotta let me know what you need from us. I'm not waiting on grants, we gotta fix this.
Then, I'm assuming it's not gonna be the emergency permit, they're gonna have additional requirements on that.
Well, we might have to get the emergency permit just to make it that if we get another storm next week, we can't have this washing this guy's house away.
Excuse me, can I show you this?
We actually have pictures.
Yeah, we're fully aware of what's, yeah,
That's just coming in, it comes right down south.
yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah,
It's
so-
a mess. It's a mess, and we're gonna address it. We gotta fix it.
We'll start with that call, and, I can work with Dean on this. He's been in support of trying to get whatever we can as fast as we can, but it really was beyond what he could do. So I didn't have him too involved in that, but if it can help in any way, we'll get him involved on it.
But you gotta keep me in the loop and not in 2 months from now. This has to be fixed, and if I gotta put pressure from the other end, from the top down, then that's what we gotta do, because this is just crazy not to fix this. We could have solved this, a majority of this problem 2 years ago when it was dry.
Yeah, that's the irony.
I mean, it's
If there's-
just, it's
if there's
tough dealing
anything we
with
can-
this.
If there's anything we can do under the emergency permit, I'll let you know right away. If there's another permit that has to be applied for to do really what we've been talking about in that same area, I'll let you know exactly what it is, throw the cost at it for what that will be, and have that up front. But
Well, the immediate concern would be from Southview, south. And now we have sediment that is pretty much laid the whole stream bank in. It's all come down there now, so.
Out
now the
behind my
thing-
garage, I have at least 150 ton. I can walk across it.
Because of the recent rains, it's would be probably a good time to apply for that emergency permit. And you can claim there was destruction as a result of the high heavy
Major
flows.
destruction.
So, what, you just call in to Ed Music, I can get you the number if you need it, Scott. All right, call Ed Music and tell them what's going on and you need an emergency permit. And then you can go through the GP11 process after you get that emergency permit. And we can also probably help with some financial assistance like we did on the other section. So we can talk about that too.
Whatever has to be done, I'm beyond frustrated with this situation, and we tried and knew we had a problem and couldn't get it fixed because of red tape. That shouldn't be like that. I know it is, but we gotta move forward. So just keep me in the loop. Keep me with emails. I'll pass them on to whoever needs to put pressure from the top down.
All right, yeah, I'll call them in the morning.
Thank you, Scott. Robbie, do you want to finish up with the other sections?
Just dirt roads washed out, we had a bunch of cleanup work. We did a bunch of cleanup work throughout the township, and I'm sure you guys will discuss water flow, solar farm. We'll move that later. There's nothing major that I saw other than the Walnut Town area that was affected. Just normal washouts and drains were overwhelmed that we had to clean up. But overall, besides Walnut Town, we're actually pretty lucky, I think, compared to surrounding people.
Is everything opened up and swept off and cleaned up too?
Or for the most part, I have some work to do on a couple other roads. It should be all cleaned up majority tomorrow. My only question is I have some pictures, and Jen can just pull one up for Southview. I don't know who's responsible for cleaning the debris up in front of the culvert on Southview.
You want the first email or the second one?
I'm not sure which one it is offhand. I don't remember which one that was. Because that's something that needs to be cleared up, or else it's gonna back up.
The whole building tomorrow, the whole,
Okay.
pretty much rest of it.
Yeah, you
Nice to have
can,
some
you
help.
can, but I probably
Yeah.
can't. But that's not.
Which picture do you want? You said the first email.
It's actually probably one of the last emails.
So there's railroad ties coming down?
Yeah.
I'm the only reason that culvert's open.
And nobody's.
I reached over the guardrail and pulled out the stuff with my backhoe.
This one,
Other than
Ronnie, or
that,
the
it's
next
still
one?
going down South Street.
So it's not.
And there was a riding
it's not on
tractor
TV.
in your culvert.
Yeah, we took 2 days to get it out.
Yeah, $2,000 ride.
Oh, it's not up, I'm sorry.
$2,000 riding tractor, trash.
Yeah, like I said, me and my dad were there trying to open it, so it was rushing down. And we had Virginville, brush truck come flying up through, we're waving our hands, and he was doing at least 40 miles an hour. And knee waist, didn't even stop, didn't even slow down. When he came back, I jumped him about it, and he sped off after I jumped him
Which
about
one do
it.
you want?
Go to the first email, sorry. Probably one of the last.
This one here?
Yeah, that one there.
This one here?
Yeah.
Yeah, right there.
So you can see
it up a little bit.
Yeah.
The,
That whole corner right there.
right, all of that. I'm assuming that's debris and some of the shed.
Yeah, it's pretty much almost
Right.
all I
I
shed.
mean, that has, I'm gonna say, that has half of that culvert blocked as of now. And that debris there in the center, that was, I'm gonna say probably 5-6 foot deep at one point. That is all filled in now.
Yeah, that wasn't too great. That was just.
Do you want another one up there, Robin?
I mean,
I mean, I have a video before it washed away.
on the other side of those Bilko doors, in between the Bilko door and that white shed is where the shed, that was not there anymore.
And now it's up to the foundation block, actually, at the moment.
Okay, now that picture is probably from, that was before we actually
Saying that was,
reestablished the stream bank there on the left side, so that's what it looked like. Now the water has moved over to the right a lot further, and in the top right corner of the picture is a gray portion of that shed that one was there.
Until that curb's taken out of there, that's gonna continue to happen.
Wanna take the house next?
it'll take the house.
It'll
back.
eventually it'll undermine Southview too.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
it'll take the house, and then it'll take north,
Like I
west of the
said,
box
you're on the
culvert, it'll just
backside,
eat the road away.
you're on the backside of that foundation, and that water's coming down, coming right in that house, full blast.
Do I need my other?
That's it.
You're done, okay.
I think we have to take what's at the box culvert. Because you get another head of train, you're gonna lose, because it's gonna take a little time.
Yeah.
I think we gotta take the debris out. I think the township can do that.
Yeah, take your
You're talking
debris out,
about-
Robbie, and clean it the best you can.
Let me get the truck, so.
Just get the box culvert open again.
Yeah, no, so.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, if you have something that's gonna be blocking
Yeah.
the stream, you can remove that.
Go upstream 50 feet.
And that's in the right of way.
I can go upstream 50 feet from the start of the culvert.
If necessary,
Yeah, maybe that's a project for tomorrow, whatever, that's we get it cleaned out. Do the best you can. And we'll work at it from our end to get a permanent fix.
Use your elastic tape measure.
Yeah, but it's only about 100 feet, 50 feet ain't gonna.
Really?
Because right where the water is.
Are you?
It's gonna shoot right up a little bit, and it's gonna.
All right, we're gonna work at this, guys. I know it's not like we didn't try, but it's not an excuse either. We're gonna stay on it and we're gonna work at it as hard as we can. And if we need help from the public to put pressure on the legislator, I'll let you guys know, but I'll use every effort that I can to get pressure from the top down. Because I know the DEP runs under their own rules. So, all right, you wanna do pool enforcement?
For the period, we issued 17 new building permits, total construction value of $987,363. Those 14 were residential, 3 non-residential. Inspections performed, 22. We had compliance achieved, property maintenance and zoning on 7 issues. We're still waiting for my favorite property to get served with their citation for Mine Road. But, that had to go to a different DJ because he had refused, or she recused herself the last time. So we don't know where that's gonna be yet.
Hopefully back to the other one, but we'll see.
What's that?
Hopefully back to the same one that heard it last time, but we'll see.
That would be nice.
One of the issues that we've been having is residential burning.
Correct.
So I think what I'd like to do is we're gonna look at an ordinance just to ban burning in residential areas. It's been an issue for quite a while.
Yeah.
I don't wanna, the ag part of it, there's still some burning that happens there, I think safely, but in a residential area, I don't think there's any need this day and age to have burning.
I agree 100%.
We have a lot of complaints at brand new development. We have a lot of issues with one of the residents in there burning. And we'll ask Michelle to get some ordinance together. But one of the questions I had for Officer Quinn, what do you need from us to enforce these burning ordinances? Is there something that we should be looking at? Should we write it clear? Should we run it by the chief? Like, if someone's burning in a residential area, that you can find them and stop them, that it's not an issue for you guys. I don't want to write an ordinance that you guys can't enforce.
No, I
Do
think.
you have any suggestions?
No, I was gonna say, I think you hit the nail on the head. When you do it, just send it to him for a quick review, that he can get back to you. I mean, obviously, whatever it's gonna say in there, that it can be enforced by the police department, citation can be filed from that. And clarity is definitely, an example, the borough did a no smoking policy before that said that kids couldn't possess, purchase, or something else, but it never said they couldn't smoke. So, you know,
Right.
when it comes to doing things in court, it has to be clear. Because otherwise somebody will find a loophole that they can. And I know we had that problem once before, I think before you updated your noise ordinance. That, you know, just the way something was worded, you know, that people found loopholes in it. Of course, that with a lawyer, that was a whole other problem in and of itself.
Right.
When you say burning, do you mean like trash? Or
Trash.
do you mean like a fire pit?
Trash.
We have to write it that
Right,
it still
that's
enables people to have a fire pit out back that's self-contained.
Plastic.
We have people burning trash.
Right, I know, I've been, I mean,
Household trash needs to go away.
Yeah.
As far as being burned.
Yeah, I think that's our main target. The fire pit, something like that, is something we're gonna have it pretty
right,
explicit.
that's why I
again.
like brush, trees, leaves.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
I mean, that's my, I'm on board with you
You have
guys.
to call it
I don't burn it, I used to burn it. I don't burn
No, I think
limbs, anything. I pile it and I haul it off. I have a nice place to go. That's maybe an issue too. I know you guys have discussed it.
Yeah.
As far as having but then obviously you have that guy that brings trash and ruins it for everybody.
Well, that's where we're at.
Right, I understand that.
That's where we're at. So we'll have
Circle Stone, I'll provide you some sample ordinances, take a look, pick them apart, you know, what you like, don't like, and then we can prepare, so I'll send those to you and you can provide comments. Or July, we'll provide comments in August, we get it drafted and adopted September or October.
and we want to send the chief. Go ahead.
Yeah, just kind of one consideration, let me just offer this, because I know this was an issue too. If you have a tenant on a farm that is not engaged in anything agricultural, they should not be able to follow the agricultural things about burning all their building supplies. As they, you know, kind of used something to their advantage in the fact that they live on a farm, so they should be able to follow the agricultural rules. So just again, for consideration, maybe you want to leave it that way, maybe you don't, but I'm just saying.
We don't want to be overbearing with rules, but when common sense leaves, like it has, and you have people burning trash in a development, it's just an issue that we unfortunately have to address. So we'll try and take all that and we'll run it by the chief and we'll have public comment if somebody has any suggestions. We want to listen, but we got to put an end to some of this stuff.
And then advertise or put the word out that if there is an issue, make sure they're contacting the police, not just the township,
Correct.
because that's unfortunately what has happened. The police are here to observe, but the code officials aren't here 24/7, so they can't observe, so.
All right. Motion to approve the fire company's workers' compensation renewal. It went down $1,000 from last year. That's our only game in town for the fire company. I make the motion that we approve it.
I'll second.
All in favor? Motion to approve the property and casualty insurance quote for the township. That went down $5,000 with a little bit better coverage.
Better umbrella.
Better umbrella.
All for
So would we, we'd have a different underwriter?
Yeah.
So would we, as well,
What's that?
we would be approving them as well?
Yeah, well, a different agent, we approved a different agent, I think.
Yes.
We approved
Yeah.
it from the meeting before.
Yeah, fire toner.
So I make a motion, we accept the proposal.
Also,
All in favor? Okay, now it comes to the engineer's report for the solar farm.
I guess, it might be easiest to kind of start from today and work backwards where we need to. By email, we did ask them to stop work today. The reason for that was, one, there's the ongoing issues with the downstream water that's flowing, how much that is, whether the mud that's being, I guess sediment laden is probably the technical term for it, but the biggest concern was the fact that they continued working while there was issues with their perimeter controls. They hadn't corrected those and they continued to muddy the site that was already muddy and continued to be draining at this time. So we asked them to stop work immediately when we sent that email. I did follow up with them. They requested, can they get their crews into the site to repair the ENS controls that are supposed to be controlling. They're worried not getting everything in place before the next storm. Said, absolutely, you can do that. They're looking to do that and only that tomorrow, but looking for possibly Wednesday to come back in. I'll stop out, check the site when they request it. As long as it's not making a area that's already stabilized, muddier, or worsening anything, then I don't think we really have an issue there with them continuing to work. However, I would like to see them get all the perimeter controls back up. Some of that storm did hit their perimeter controls and they do need to reestablish them.
yeah, they're gonna have to redo their fencing in a couple different places. And now you, I mean, we saw this come.
Yeah.
Now you can actually see what the damage is.
We had concerns with what they first showed. They revised that. Now they have a problem that they say can't be fabricated, so they're trying to come up with it. Basically, it has to be something. There's 2 areas that have to pass under a fence, 3 maybe, I think. But they still want to create a barrier of
Right.
sorts, but it still has to pass in. But
Which
over
is
near
all
the
fine.
railroad fence, you're right.
Yeah.
You can see what's going to happen if they don't have a better solution. So they are working on that specifically. So they're working on getting the site back up to where it should be. I had taken a trip out there almost 2 weeks ago, met with their superintendent for the site, walked the site. The ENS controls per their permit plan were in place where they're supposed to. They've actually added some controls, additional silt socks in areas that make sense, but they've also tried to use, you might be able to help me out here, Dean, they're socks that are really meant to take out additional sediment from the water and they're putting it in certain pipes that the water's passing through. Deflocculant?
Yeah,
Is that what they're called?
yeah, I think it's something like that they call
So they put a couple of those in. They did have at the last storm about 2 weeks ago, have an area where they found water was bypassing one of them. They reinforced that, but with this last storm, it was bigger than the controls really could hold, so they're looking to fix those again. But their basins, I would say, there's one basin that doesn't have a lot of grass to it or mulch, but it's designed to infiltrate, and it's the one that's infiltrating exactly as planned. So even without the grass, I don't think that's really a concern at this point. The other parts, even where there's not grass, they do have mulch down. The site itself, we did ask them to improve the stabilization. The worst areas are where they're still working, so they're still having some of that. But other areas, even though they've gotten it, it's still spotty. So that's where we're asking them to bring that up, just make it better a little bit, basically. So that's where we're at the site right now. The complaints that did come in were on Weaver Road, And that was, I spoke to the complainant that came in on that one. They were really accessing Weaver Road, and they still haven't completely addressed it. They really have like 3 accesses on Weaver's Road to the site. They've expanded that, and they did so because they said we put up a fence, we limited our own access, that's not our problem. I asked them to put up a tape or something that does not allow any free access to Weaver Road. They did about a third of what I asked. We got to extend that a little further, and they need to improve their entrances to what it should be for a construction site. They tried to do a little more than what's on the plans, but it still needs a little improvement. So they're working there, but they do have, I did put them on notice that their access to Weaver Road the way they are, they're signed on to making any and every repair that needs to be done on that road when it's done. We said that in the approval process when the plans were approved, but they've kind of furthered that with the way they were accessing a couple extra locations. We did try to ask them to not congregate along Weaver Road. They're still parking on their property, which is something that it's expected they got to park on there. I don't know if it's improved or not.
They still stand in the middle of the road, mine could go to work, then they have to get off the road. They're right there in the middle, right at my driveway, in the middle of the road is where they congregate to do their morning meeting. They did it this morning again,
In the road.
in the road. Yes.
So this is my concern, and probably the public here will have more comment. They have used up more than all their goodwill. We gotta tighten down 1,000% now. They don't have the weeds trimmed. They use Weaver Road like it's part of the property. They have 100 acres, or how many acres in the farm? That's their that's where they need to be. And what really tells the story of the part that I think they just don't care is after 10 inches of rain, they're working today. I mean, that's beyond unbelievable to me. That goes to show they just flat out do not care, and I am done with that.
That's just poor judgment.
Yeah.
That's not even poor judgment. That's just blatantly saying we don't care
Ignorant.
about what the community needs here. We're going to do what we want because you guys aren't going to stop me. But I'm done with that. I'm done with that.
I've sent pictures since March of the same thing, since March. And nothing has been done in this township to correct it.
Our road was blocked for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time.
And everybody just brushes it off.
To the
And
point.
they are making a fool out of you guys. And I told you that was gonna happen from March on, that if you guys don't bring your A game, go home. And
So
you
the
guys
guys-
look like fools.
He's made a couple complaints about the road. Every time we've gone out, if there was cars there, we asked them to move. Once they refused to do that, and we approached them on what the actual plans allowed for, they've applied for road permits for 2 entrances. But again, we told them, due to what you have done to the road, Mertz Road is now a road we need to walk, and whatever improvements are necessary at the end, that's what needs to be done. But I agree, they were not following the plans, and when they blatantly did not follow them or correct for it, we then had them apply for the permit and bond any of the improvements that they're gonna be doing, so.
But I still think they're not following. They're not following simple common sense practices, doing what they want to do. I mean, it's just a mess.
Yeah.
And I don't know what our enforcement is ability to do, or what the conservation did. I mean, there's multiple issues. We have neighbors with wells contaminated. We have a whole bunch of stuff, and here we sit. We gotta. This just has to change.
Great farmland. Now look at it.
What percent are they done? 50%, 20%?
They still have a lot of work. I mean, I'm not gonna,
50%.
I bet you they're probably 50% because even after they get the solar panels in, they still have to, they have amended soils to put in. That's still an issue we're dealing with. But they have a few months worth of work left for sure.
Can I just ask a question? I'm confused of this whole project. Why is it that they were allowed to strip 110 acres of vegetation and the stormwater wasn't complete? Does everybody in this room think that we were gonna have a rain like this, or even a 2-inch rain, and it was gonna run off that strip topsoil that they rolled into place without any stormwater control in place. The NRCS came out years ago, put it in a waterway. And the first thing they did was rip that out. Now it's a free flow from the bridge all the way to the Fleetwood Lions Road. There is nothing in that first retention pond ever. Never. No water. It gets down to the Fleetwood Lions Road, and the overflow pipe is 1.5 feet off the bottom of the floor. It's still running today. How do you call that a retention pond? A retention pond holds back water, and then when it reaches a certain height, it goes into the overflow. There's no overflow. This may work as you guys think it might at the end, but we aren't close. We had a dry May. Why isn't their retention ponds finished? What were they doing when it didn't rain for 6 weeks? Who was holding them accountable? Now they're out there taking their equipment and making ruts all over the hillside. Do you think the water, when it rains for the next 40 years, is going to sink into the ground naturally, or is it going to follow the ruts that it's now started?
No, and that's part of the reason that we're working with them. It's just speaking in plain, hold on a second, but the reason we reached out to them about the soil amendments that they have to do, their assumptions have been somewhat shot for what we agree with. So we're not approving with them moving forward until they show us that the site is capable of doing what they assume. Because the way they did handle the site cut, and they put all their basins in per the plan before they stripped anything. They had to. They would, if they didn't have those in, they didn't have them up in order, they would have been shut down to move forward.
Are they working?
So, not right now. No,
they're not.
That very first
So-
one.
I'm sorry. I thought you said
They're
where's
not
the
working.
crew working.
But what about the side over across the railroad? Did anybody walk that to see what the grass growing there is actually doing? Because they roll it with a vibratory roller and threw grass seed on
So
in the middle of a drought. We had rain in March. We had rain in June. I've shown you pictures of their silt socks where the water was missing it along the fence. Today, the silt socks are still in the same place. It's not going to catch any water. They didn't do any improvements. You guys
I
are
have to
missing
look
the
at where
whole
he's
boat
talking
because you
about.
need to get your boots on and come out there when it's raining and see what's going on. We have muddy water. It should never happen. Never.
So our office and the conservation district has been watching the site. What's on the approved plan is in. They've done some to improve what's there to try to make up for the sediment and water that's leaving the site. We did the review for the stormwater design, and as he's saying, the post-construction stormwater management design with DEP, Conservation District, got approved for the final conditions. The water that's coming off the site is technically, and I don't live around, I don't know what it was before, but I've been out there after the storms, and it does look a lot less than I've seen some of the past storms.
No,
I don't live there.
You're not in the ballpark, Scott. Come on, let's be realistic.
I don't live there, Ron. And I'm saying, I'm not trying to downplay anybody, but what I'm seeing when I go out there, I mean, it's for what I've heard, what I've seen pictures of previous, it's less than. And if it's not for some of these storms, obviously this past weekend it's not. There's no way that the storm's gonna be less for that storm. Just keep saying it. It's just not gonna happen.
We're not denying when you get a 6-inch rain, the whole township has issues of water.
Yeah.
I'm saying, how are you gonna move forward with this project now that there are ruts that have been established since March? And you're thinking your stormwater plan at the end of this plan is going to work. It can't work because the ground is not going to filter half the water you're thinking it's going to. It's going to follow the same path with less restriction.
So,
I mean, come on, Scott.
Jen,
you
I
gotta
think
realize
was so
that.
wrong.
You gotta
John,
realize that.
hold on a second. I think you're the only one that I had copied on it from this room because it was correspondence with the contractor. But they tried to submit a change to their soil amendment. They want to do that. I sent it to Dean just today as well because they didn't send it to them. They need to review it as well. Our conversations are, the site is not what they designed. Right now, it does not stand in the same soil conditions, characteristics that they said, here's how it's gonna operate. We went back to them and said, you have to do testing and show us what those infiltration rates are so that we can then move forward and say it will operate. I agree exactly with what you're saying. On that end of it, 100%, because we're seeing the same thing.
So then
And
my
that's like-
question is, why would you let them continue tomorrow or Wednesday? Why would you not make them stop what they're doing? Because what they've done to now isn't working. Why would you let them start Wednesday and keep on going what they're doing?
Because we don't know what they're doing tomorrow until we say, at this point, we don't agree with what you're doing if you're gonna make those same assumptions. So that's what we approached them with and said, you need to do testing to show us that you will achieve what you need to achieve in the end. And that's been well known ever since we, like, the board approved the plan, is that this site has to operate with a 20% reduction of the flow from before this ever started. There has to be infiltration on the site to back up that reduction of flow as well. So until they can show that, they're never gonna get a permit to operate the site.
But in the meantime, what do we do? What do we do in the meantime?
We're waiting for the construction, waiting for the sites. I mean, we can't really, I don't know what jurisdiction I have to shut them down and if we're asking them for additional information.
Mr. Drunkmiller, you're out there, that's where you, what options do we have? This clearly is not a good situation.
Yeah, we've been trying to work with them. I'll be honest, they have been very agreeable to our recommendations. We've tried to beef up some of their BMPs out there to handle the sediment that's being washed off the site. We've asked them to stabilize as much as they can, as fast as they can. Obviously with May, it was impossible to get any kind of stabilization out there at all. We were supposed to go out there today. We had an inspection lined up today, but they told us not to come out because everything's a mess and they wanted to get everything cleaned up and fixed before we come out there. So hopefully at the end of the week, we'll be out there to do an inspection. Now, here's the thing that you need to understand with the NPDES permit. It's a stormwater discharge permit. Basically, that allows them to discharge stormwater off the site. Okay? Now, there are some requirements that it can't be life-threatening or, threat to or endangering health and environment and things like that. I understand the issue that Floyd Kurtz is having on his property, and I'm trying to get in touch with DEP to get some kind of clarification on what we can do to make sure that that gets rectified before they leave and go away forever. The other thing is, you have to understand is that there will be sediment problems out there until that site is green. That's just the way it's gonna be. Those BMPs cannot handle 100% of the sediment coming off the site. That's why they have the permit that allows them to discharge stormwater. Okay, it's not gonna be 100% clean until that site is 100% green. I'll tell you that right now. We're dealing with residential and homeowner developments across the county that are in the same situation as you guys are.
So
Okay.
why was it in such good vegetation state? They didn't farm it for a year, cut it in mulch hay. Why did they strip the topsoil?
I can't answer that because that's probably a construction detail that I'm not aware of why they did it. Maybe it's a structural thing
I think that's
as a
more,
result of the, what's that?
I think every site they strip the topsoil.
Yeah, I don't know the details.
You put it right back to reshape the
Subsoil.
Yeah, like Scott said, they are supposed to put amended soils in across that almost the entire site, if I'm correct.
It's not the
And
entire
that
site,
is,
but it is.
that can't be done until they're pretty much done with the installation of panels and infrastructure.
Once we had those panels up, they were out today making ruts, ripping up a little bit of grass that has grown and compacting the soil.
Yep.
How in the world is water gonna filter through the soil when it's packed?
Well, that's where Scott was talking
That's the
about.
exact thing we're putting on, the onus is on them to show that. If they don't have that, then they have to It's part of the zoning approval they received for the site. If they can't achieve that, then the site can't move forward. But that's what we're asking for at this point, because to be honest with you, I brought this up to them and we've been notifying them ever since we saw the rollers running the site and compacting it. And they kept saying, we talked to our engineers, they think it's okay. They knew we were gonna be asking the question.
So then all you gotta do is say, okay, you're done until you prove to me you can do this, because they're gonna keep going. Once they're done, they're from North Carolina. See you later.
Texas, California.
See you later.
We can,
Once they got
we
what
can
they
evaluate
want,
where we are.
once they
and
got
how we
what
can
they
shut them
want,
down for
what do
that.
they care?
We made that request to them to see that.
As a farmer, you can't say we can go out there and do that, and you guys wouldn't be on our
Well,
butts.
we wouldn't terminate their permit if it's not working in accordance to their plan. So if they don't get their permit terminated, they're gonna have to pay so many dollars a year to keep that open.
That doesn't do
And
us.
if they don't, then they would be in violation, and then we would have to forward that up to DEP for enforcement.
So our
And to
crops
that
get
same
washed
point-
out, continued washed out, we can't plant in the fields now because they keep water, and they get fined, but what can you do?
So
Yeah, I understand.
to that question of where does this go? What they're doing on the site is still per the construction plan. The end game is to have that infiltration and have this achieved the way it should be. We have asked them to do that well before that they would plan on doing it. If they come back and they can't meet that, there may be reason to say we need to shut them down and that needs to occur before they proceed. If they can't get that on the site, and I think, Michelle, if we want to expedite that request, I feel like that's reasonable. But right now, the work they're doing on the site, it is per the construction plan. If the end product can't be achieved, which is what we've already requested, then yeah, there is a reason that we can say, okay, at this point, you need to stop and not move forward. They have not requested any money to be released for work that they've done. There's plenty of money in there if there ever needed to be somebody to come in and stabilize the site outside of them, if it came to that point. That part, that isn't an issue. That's not gonna get you the good grass topsoil that was there before, but it will get grass and topsoil back in
But
at no cost to the
isn't
township.
that what you need though, to have your filterization plan work?
Yeah, and that's.
So much soil, water has to seep into that barn,
And that's
and
what
it's
they
not.
still have to, but
That's
they're not at the point
that's
where
not
it's
gonna
supposed
happen.
to
They're not that phase yet of the construction project. Once they're pretty much done, then they'll come in there near the end and do the amended soils and things like that. That'll promote that infiltration.
Well, I'll bet you're straight that it'll never work, because those ruts will never go away unless you close them in.
Yeah, and they should grade those out.
How? The freaking panels are up. What are they gonna use, a hoe?
I don't know. They won't get their permit terminated.
But until then, we're gonna drown.
Well, hopefully those basins will start operating more efficiently and hold water.
But they had it since May to go in and work when it was dry, and they didn't do anything. Nobody held them accountable to do it. Now we're in a rainy spell, and you want them to fix their retention ponds. And the funny part about it is they planted their grass in May, and they went and dumped more water out, and they took their water truck, and kept trying to put dust down, and spread it over their grass and regenerate your grass.
I did suggest that to them. I gave them that recommendation.
And that's all you can do is suggest to them?
That's all we can do is, and if we put it in a report, and if they continue to can operate in that same manner, we don't have enforcement capability. We just work on voluntary compliance. And if they continue not to listen to our recommendations, we have to issue that up to DEP. And then the DEP comes out and does the enforcement or issues an NOV. We don't do that.
Not a problem for the end of the project then.
So what's our next step here to get this under control? And I agree, I mean, if they went in today after 10 inches of rain, they don't give, they don't care about the end result. I mean, that's pretty blatant, don't you think? I mean, common sense.
I think most sites, when you have a rain like that, they call the day off. I mean, it's just
That's a done deal.
the end of story that you see that
They
everywhere.
destroyed that thing.
And there just doesn't seem to be any,
For 3 days.
I don't see
Well, the only
the
time when
fencing
they
for
break
silk
ground,
socks
that's
that
what
I
they did.
used to
So
see.
where's the filtration on that?
Site like that, because they know it's all coming
We still
down.
dump trucks.
So should they
And
have
bring
layers of
junk
socks
dirt.
to retain that? They're not doing that. I guess my other big question is, I was up there in the heat of that storm yesterday. That retention, that multi-acre retention right on the north side of the railroad. It's the first one the water gets to as it passes underneath there. There's nothing in there. That was retained, nothing. Makes me wonder, was that built to specification? And what is that multi-acre thing?
Now, that basin on the north side of the road is only to capture water coming off of the construction site, not the water that's coming up from above.
No, he's saying the first larger pond, once you come under the railroad.
Oh,
tracks.
under the railroad, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a multi-acre
The
pond. It
first-
opens up
first
to a
pond.
big, but that was retaining nothing yesterday.
Or the last three steps.
Right, but if you look at the geography there, it's an open, and obviously it's higher, so it's gonna flow downhill. But my question is you have a huge amount of retention there, but there's no head wall or anything to retain it.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
I was thinking maybe it was a seepage pond,
No,
but
it
there's
will-
not even holding water to seep.
again, it's a temporary, right now it's in the temporary construction phase. I mean, the pipes they have in, and we're not out there shooting elevations, it's just,
Yeah,
I mean, we go by eye unless something's really off.
well, something's really off.
But it's just,
No water.
may not be really holding that water until it is
Oh,
a
no, it
permanent
is.
state.
I saw it, it was running over Fleetwood Lions Highway and that pond was created.
The second pond isn't holding water either.
The second
Second.
pond was
I thought
filled.
I've seen that, I was gonna say, I thought I'd seen that with the water.
Basically, the spillway was the Fleetwood Lions Highway. That was the,
This weekend, yeah, you can see the mud on it.
yeah. But I think, I'm not certain what the purpose of that large, because that area is probably 3 times the size of the
That-
lower retention pond.
It will be a
That would
retain,
hold an enormous amount of water.
and it will be in the end when when its conversion happens. I know that for sure, but currently I can't say if that's, I just know per the plan and the temporary state, they would have flagged it as well if there was a wrong size pipe in that outlet. So I'm not
I don't
sure.
know that there's an outlet section there though. It
There's
just
no head
flows
wall, it's
right,
just a big area.
it just flows, it's like they forgot to put the rest there of the pond.
There is a pipe there that, I know we have the pictures from it that, I know it doesn't hold a lot of water, but when it comes through, it actually is clear on, I'm not gonna speak to this past storm, but when it comes through that area, it's clear water running through that area. I mean,
Well, this is all water that's coming downstream from up on the other side of it. But regardless, it's coming through there, so it has to be managed.
I have to look at it, my guess is
My
that it's
thinking
not.
is that something's missing there.
And maybe
Normally,
that
what
in
you
a
do is you
temporary
put a
state.
retention wall with a pipe in there to slow the water down. But it's just an open spillway. I think there's something missing.
With no grass from the NRC.
Yeah, no
Took it
grass.
all out, all dirt.
But I don't know if this is the final plan or if they
I guess,
overlooked something or if it's part of the construction process. I don't know.
I'll have our inspector go out and take a look at that.
Yeah, if you
Make
would,
sure
because there's something that isn't right there.
Okay.
And I think a lot of this, if that large area would have retained water on Sunday, I don't think the water would have crossed Fleetwood Lions. If it would have been minimalized. I just don't see the wisdom of having that pond there if it's not retaining it. Maybe I'm missing something.
yeah, and I think my guess would be that it's not really meant to do a lot during the temporary state, but in the final, that will be part of the kind
I
of
would hope.
two-stage.
I would hope. Because otherwise they sacrificed an awful lot of real estate for nothing there.
So I think, a question about moving forward, I think especially after the meeting here, the request that we made for the soil amendments, and that was probably 3 weeks ago. I just assumed that they were, the last meeting I had, which is about a week and a half ago, I asked for an update on that, and they said, we haven't gotten one yet from our engineers, so we can't, I don't have anything to pass along to you. That I can ask for an immediate answer on that one, or the need to shut down the site for proceeding, and if they can't show that they can reach that infiltration rate and the final end game for what they need on their permits, then I think we do need to stop progress on that. Of course, I'll double check with Michelle's office here and make sure everybody's on the same page with how we proceed with that. But I think it's reasonable. We have given them time and had no response on that, and that's for immediate response.
The other thing, if it is diverting onto the roads, you could send 23, 26 obstruction and nuisance letter to them. That if they don't correct it, then they're subject to summary offense. And also, I just, because I don't have the motor vehicle code here, I reached out to Chris. He said there's a section 3351 regarding parking, because I was looking at the book to see if you could issue temporary no parking. I'm gonna look to the officer, 3351, when it's practical to do so, to stop off the roadway, would you guys look at issuing parking if they're parking along the roadway? He said it is unlawful to stop, stand, or park on the roadway when it is practicable to do so off the roadway.
I think we reissued the requests at this point that we've made, and if they don't bring those up to speed by
Well, maybe
Wednesday,
we have to be a little firmer.
then I think we need to just say, again, it's another stop work because they're not addressing the issues we have. I think that's for Weaver Road, it's the access to any part other than the approved entrances.
Thank you.
I addressed the concern she had with the people in the roadway, any vehicles parked on the roadway. There should be none of that. They have their property. And again, they're agreeable to do so, but unfortunately, you kind of have to, it seems like you gotta be on them every day.
But it's clear they say what you want to hear, but do what they want. Do what they want, and that we just gotta end that.
Since the beginning.
Since the,
That tracks.
Yeah, since the beginning, it seems like it's been.
And I have another question for you guys, if I can. You know, they had the matting along Merck's Road, which they were supposed to work on, which they clearly didn't, okay? Now, they took the matting away from Merck's Road, but they left all the dirt in the floodplain. Where do you think happened this week? There's no silt fence around the piles, there's no grass on the piles, but they wanted to take the mats away. So they just pushed the dirt on piles onto my topsoil. Okay? How are they gonna now go in there and get that dirt off without causing compaction? That's what the mats were put in there for.
So we asked them for the roadway permit because they were accessing Mertz Road the way they shouldn't. They should not have been anywhere near the road that they are now. They should have been going in the one entrance near your house, and that's it. And they didn't
Never
follow that at all.
Never.
Well, I know. That's why we kept pushing them and telling them to get off the road, get off the road. Now they're subject to whatever we need to do for that roadway to protect it.
And so they're leaving mud and debris on the roadways.
No, they left the
There wasn't-
piles,
Well,
there was
they
no
well,
mats.
just pushed the piles off the mats, took the mats, and now the piles are just sitting in your floodplain. And the water's just washing it
When
away.
I was there, I didn't see it in the floodplain, but I'm not saying it
You
now.
want some pictures?
I didn't see them in the floodplain.
Is there a violation of the improvement agreement?
Oh, my God.
What's that?
If there's mud and debris on the roadway, there's a violation of the improvements agreement.
Yeah, there hasn't been-
They're just piled up. Are they
The
gonna
mud's on his property. They have an agreement with him for the access on that. I mean, that's something that he can address directly with them.
Come on out, Scott. Put your boots on, come on out. We'll go walk.
Can't you address that? You have an agreement with them for your property, correct?
The reason they couldn't put the poles so long span was because you guys wouldn't let them put it in the floodplain. I understand that. But now what allows them to put the dirt in the floodplain and just let it go?
They told me that they were not accessing the floodplain. Every time I was out there, they weren't in the floodplain. That's why they had the 2 permits for the
I have
roads.
swampland in Florida, I want to sell. Okay? I can feed you all kinds of lip service. Come on, Scott. This doesn't lie. Look at the pile of dirt in the floodplain with the water going around it, beside the pole that's in your floodplain. They can tell you whatever they want, but pictures don't lie. Pictures don't lie. You see what? See that? You see anything around it?
We got it.
Nothing. No silt fence, no
No
straw,
straw,
no gas.
And that's
No
what
more.
Yes.
It's used straw around it.
There's
Yeah.
things that need to be done.
I did the best
I
I
mean,
could.
them going in today was a clear sign of, hey, we don't give a
I don't know, as far as the
We
meetings,
need
it
to
would
have
have to be a
change of the guards here.
site thing, site issue.
I'll have my guy come look at it.
How do, and I'm just curious, because we'll get calls. Do you guys want official complaints filed? Because I don't want to start reacting to everything that we get.
But we have multiple, you know what I mean? I mean, I don't think it's just an isolated case. An official complaint, I guess, what does that at the end do? It's, we still gotta address it.
I agree, and it just, usually, I mean, this is an open project, big project. It's just, a lot of times, if we're getting multiple calls from the same person, I'm taking up time and bill to the township. This we have for the solar farm, obviously, but that's the.
I mean, they can put it in place, that's what, for down the road.
Yeah. I mean, we can just get the calls and keep going on this project, absolutely. It's there.
Trying to.
There definitely is a lot of time on that for trying to handle all the calls and emails.
I think we're just gonna, I think we gotta get this one up. I think they'll clean up their act if they're, I don't know what our responsibility or liability.
There has to be some penalty.
There has to be some penalty. They have not done what they said, and they're just doing whatever they want. I mean, it's obvious.
I'll look back at the improvements agreement, I'll do some research and talk to Chris about the cease and desist. I mentioned to the officer about the parking, I mean, it's a minor issue, but at least it's simply something. Do you want us to send a 23-26 notice, notifying those that are in violation, and I think I'll correct it against a summary offense, but at least it's showing some proactive.
I don't think the water's going across the road now, it was just a neighbor's.
Okay. So they're
It's
not
not a regular
doing
thing.
anything. Okay, then that takes that off the table then.
Yeah, that's.
Okay. I was trying to think of options that were out there.
Our major concern is they can't walk, township, they can't be citizens from going back and forth, so they do that. They just don't care.
I think right now we have a stop work on that. If we want to push these other items and say, have one addressed
100%.
before we lift it.
We're gonna go, I think we should look at every violation that they have and say, listen, we're not gonna lift it until you fix this today. You've had plenty of opportunity to do the right thing, and you obviously chose not to, because you think you can do whatever, and that we just cannot have anymore. They have to, I mean, I would suggest you go out there, you walk it, you look at all the violations, and you just say, this, till this is fixed, it's a no-go.
And honestly, since we had the site meeting with the request of the complaint that came in on Weaver Road, went out there, listed off what needed to be done. I saw that they were starting to work. I was off last week. I had no chance to get out there and see it until this morning. I went out this morning, realized that they didn't limit the access completely as requested. They haven't updated the driveway, so there just hasn't been that opportunity to follow through with everything that we discussed. If we have the stop work order now, we just follow through with it and say, here's the additional items, because I did it say after the meeting, follow up with them, let them know what they need to do before that gets lifted. I was concentrated more on the fact that there's the downstream issue, which, talking with Dean, that it does sound like that's gonna be a concern you're discussing with DEP or have already.
Well, I'm sorry.
That on the Floyd Kurtz property.
Yeah, I called them right after we got the phone today. Still wasn't able to get hold of them. I have a call into them to see how, or what we have to do, or what can be done to help rectify that situation.
Some of that downstream flow, the flow off of the site, some of that's more directly related to the NPDS project than what we have.
Scott, are you afraid of these guys?
See, this is ridiculous. I'm not gonna sit here.
Yeah, let's not attack. No, we're just trying to find a solution here, and we try and be fair, but this is clearly not.
Well, I had a problem with the county district, and we got rid of everybody about 12 years ago, and we got Dean and somebody else to do it. So I went through that. You know, what has to be done has to be done.
I mean, what, you're, and we've never met Floyd,
No,
I'm Larry.
Larry.
Hale.
What is your complaint on the site?
I'm on the board of the district.
Okay.
so what can the district do to help enforce? Is there anything, Dean, that we can?
I mean,
Well,
I
you're
don't
right,
have
I mean,
the
you said
NPDES
it's-
I was
permit
on
for
the
the
State
discharge.
Ag Preservation Board for 12 years, on the state board. I was on the Farm Service Agency. We oversaw the federal agriculture programs for 16 years. But what's happening to these farmers over here on Preserve Farm is a crime. You're here to help us.
I'm here enforcing the land development plans. I'm enforcing what's on that plan. If it's a discharge.
You're here to help our community.
I agree with you.
Okay, we'll
But
do it.
the discharge permit isn't with the township. I mean, that's,
Well, figure out how
to
to-
sit there and point the finger at me for that is not, it's just not accurate here.
Right.
And that's, I think, to take the
Yeah,
blunt
so
of
we're
it,
not
it's
gonna, we're gonna work at this, but is there anything, your end that you can?
We can just recommend that to the contractor out there to beef up their BMPs. If they don't seem to be working, we maybe have to go back to the drawing board on some things out there. If Floyd continues to have a problem, that's where I need to get in a hold of DEP, see what can be done there. Because that's an obvious issue there, and to the residents, I think on the corner there, right? And you too.
Yeah, we're having
So
dirt on water
there's
too.
3 wells that are impacted.
He's in the rental house.
Oh, okay. If there still continues to be problems out there, we can bring DEP in on it, and maybe they can be more of a heavy hand than we.
I
Well,
think
maybe
Brad,
it's time to do that.
Okay.
I think
I think we've been struggling with the lack of involvement from the Conservation District because of the NPDES permit that DEP
Well,
issued.
I'm gonna push back on that one. We've been out there more times than we're required to be out there. See, we're supposed to inspect these sites so many times, over a period of time, and we've been out there twice as much as we should have.
Well,
So we've been out there.
We've
So-
all been out there.
Okay,
A lot.
so we've been out there
Trying
more
to-
than we're supposed to be. So I think we're doing a pretty good job trying to stay on top of this stuff.
But I think the situation has been such that it demands more an active hand to bring DEP in on this situation.
And I'm not gonna argue that. I'm not gonna argue that point with you.
And you're our contact with DEP.
Yeah, I know. Well, I have a phone call into DEP, South Central Office, to the guy that's in charge of the 102 program down there. So I'll talk to him about it. Hopefully tomorrow he calls me back. I can bring this up to him.
That's where I think we need to, that's the agency that I think that can come in here and help this situation. Our hands are tied with the NPDES permit. You said there tonight, and I'm not arguing with you, it's a construction site. There's gonna be storm water exiting the property, and it's not gonna be clean all the time.
Right.
So I understand that, but we're having problems that we can't address. And I don't think you can address them either if DEP's not involved. And I think they just need to realize the importance of this issue, not, to the residents that live in the area. It's been a huge problem. Everything has been followed, and we've been doing the inspections that need to be done, but we need some help from somebody higher up the food chain. And that's what we're hoping can come out of this tonight.
Understood? And like I said, when I talk to him, I'll bring it up. Maybe we need to bring DEP out to site, have a site meeting.
100%.
I feel like Brian, whatever it takes, we need help on
We
this.
need help, and whatever it takes, and if you need help for me to push from the top down, then that's what you gotta do, because we can only, the squeaky wheel's gonna get the wheat. We try and be fair, we try and use common sense, but they are going in the opposite direction blatantly. They're just pushing us around like.
They're just trapping.
Yeah, they're just pushing us around because they think they can.
Yeah.
They can't. They cannot.
And if Scott needs help, he should yell at us, whoever will listen to him.
I just want to say too, that the complaints, and it was part of my question about the complaint actually being filed. Anything that we've gotten, we've addressed, and I've met with them specific to the complaint. when you had the complaint, I went out there, met with them, told them, here's what it is. I haven't had a chance to follow up with them to see that they've gone through with it
But
until
they
today.
still aren't doing it, because like I said, this
But again,
morning,
and-
7 o'clock this morning,
In my defense, and the only,
they're right there in
I
the road
was,
again.
yeah, did I have the help to follow up with it when I was out of the office? No, but that was a week
I
and a
don't,
half ago I spoke with you, and every time I get a complaint, I go right to them.
I think, Scott, I
We're
think,
just not getting the follow through.
correct. You're going to them, but they're not doing their end. And we gotta bring the heavy hand out now.
And if that's what it is, obviously, the number of people here tonight reinforces that.
Right.
And I've only heard 2 or 3 complaints specifically from people that are here.
But
Everybody else, I
If
have.
there's 2 or
So
3,
I
there's
can-
probably 20 or 30 that people just don't see it. And we gave them the benefit of the doubt, now we gotta bring the heavy hand down, I guess that's, and I think, I'm not saying that you're not following through on the complaints. I'm saying on their end, they're not living up to what they're supposed to be. They're giving lip service and doing what they want, and that's just done.
So this morning we talked, and we immediately shut down the site. And
I
we'll
think the
stay
discussion-
shut down until we feel that it should be opened again, or that the work will continue in the way it's supposed to.
I
Now
think,
we're getting to them.
I think there's a need to make sure because, and if we over push on this, there's gonna be the immediate legal pushback on that. Not saying that that's not something we can't deal with,
I
but I
fully
think if we
expect that.
follow through with Chris's office on how we
Correct.
handle it,
You have to have
Starting tomorrow.
conversation,
we'll be
Yeah.
comfortable in where we're at. And I
but
think
you
that's-
guys gotta work together, but enough is enough. I mean, I'm not saying you're not pushing, but if you're going out there and saying, and they're saying, yeah, we'll do whatever, and then you leave and they do whatever they want, it's clearly that's what's happening.
And it's, that
And don't take that
unfortunately
personally,
has
Scott.
been that
You
2 or
have to
3
return
times.
the calls.
Yeah, and you're
You guys
following
have
up,
to go.
I'm just saying,
But as soon
there's
as you
no
guys
penalty
leave-
to them.
Yes.
They do what they want.
They're just doing what they want, and that just has to end. DEP has to get in here. If we would've went and did the stream like we wanted to, which, you know what I mean? They would've been all over us, and here they are. I'm just saying, we need to bring the hammer.
I got you.
Okay.
We can do that at night though, right?
Yeah. All right. Elaine, you were on, do you have anything else to add?
I just wanted to note it that first retention pond, like where you turn into Weaver's Road, it only had a couple inches of water. That is not doing its job, obviously. And then the other 2 retention ponds were overflowing and water's running like a river across the road.
It's extreme, but I think even in a non-extreme thing, we had issues there. And just going back to work today, after 10 inches of rain, that's just a clear indication that they just don't give a shit.
And I just wanted to know, they're so inconsiderate, they are the most inconsiderate, I mean, obviously they're from Texas, California, wherever. According to their license plate, they bus them in vans and in the morning. I mean, I've lived back there for 38 years, that was great farmland. It's just very hard for me to see how somebody could let their farmland be destroyed like that.
So, and I'll say this, and I am in no way defending them, but I want it to be known because when I brought it up to them, they had pushback on it, and I asked them to attend the meeting. They did not attend it tonight, obviously. But they've said when they're out there trying to control traffic, they're unloading some of their materials that they can't get the truck onto the site, just unloading it and putting it on the site. They fall short on that. Trust me, the day I was out there, I saw it and called them out on it, but they say they're not getting a lot of compliance with the people around them. They had a flagger that almost got hit because of somebody that burned through. They wanted to show me who it was. I said, no, it's not, I'm not here to do that. But I think just be overly compliant with them when they have that traffic control up there so that they can't come back and point the finger.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I don't
just
know
want all
that
the
would
blame to be on them
definitely
because
didn't
they're
want that.
obviously giving themselves that opportunity
But
too much.
I will just add to that, Scott. The frustration becomes when you give up your land for them to be safe, for our residents and for themselves to work on the mats. And they choose not to, they choose to work on a public road. Irritates a lot of people who have to sit there and watch it. Okay, if they were where they were supposed to be, they wouldn't need a flagger.
And I think the meetings, just like the meetings on Weaver Road, why can't they meet in the farm?
I have no idea why.
I mean, that's just, it's
It
just,
was a
like-
point
and,
blank
Because they don't
request, yeah.
have, they get away with it.
and that's what has everybody frustrated, Scott,
Yes.
tonight. So we gotta put the hammer down, We gotta give them the rules, and it either follows or we just shut them down, and we gotta be in touch with Chris. I don't want a lawsuit on my hands, but we gotta push back now.
Unless you want to
The
try.
Weaver's Road is a very simple solution. They have a big shoulder there between the construction site and Weaver's Road. Stone that in, and that's where they should be unloaded. Then they're off of Weaver's Road.
Yeah, they simply would just block the road. They would just block the road to offload and unload. Meanwhile, they have, a 100-acre field there that they could be in
Well,
the
they
field.
also have that big shoulder between the road and the fence. All they'd have to do is stone that in
Exactly. Yeah,
and use that.
right.
I don't see why that should be so hard.
Yeah, that's part of the suggestion.
That should-
Obviously, it's not.
It's not gonna be a suggestion now anymore.
We'll work with
Understood.
Rich and do the research. and
Thanks for your
put together
understanding,
something
guys.
That's legally enforceable.
Alright. Anything else on this? Okay, we'll move on to the road work update.
Grab one and pass down. There's gonna be, you'll see there's some chicken scratch on there, but we got the invoice in from the contractor. Reviewed it with Robbie, some of their requests. One included a change order that they had added on there, but there was no discussion for a change order, so that was not part of our recommendation. That was the curbing. They had a discrepancy in some of their tonnage for the amount of patches that we did. And it wasn't until kind of going through and figuring out what happened was on one of the roads where we were looking for a 4-inch depth on the patches. They had put in the 3-inch. It just worked out as far as the numbers go. So it's a 3-inch. There's a reduction in what we would be willing to recommend on that road. That's on the patches on School Road. We put together a punch list for them. They still need to come back and seal the patches, seal the end joints. There is a reduction on a couple little patches where they just didn't do a thorough enough job for what we're asking them to do, so we're just not paying for those patches. That had to do in an area where there was culvert pipes. I don't know if there's anything worth going over, but in the end, the work that they've completed and that they would be requesting would be for and this is just an overall summary since the work is at this point substantially complete. It was awarded at $252,971. They will be looking for at the end $263,508.39, roughly about a $10,000 overage, but that was mostly extra patches where we needed them, a little extra milling here and there that we needed them. If you recall, I think we were quite a bit under budget, nearing $100,000 in the end when we got this bid and awarded. That's just to put it in perspective. There is a 5% retainage on this request that we're adding on there. That's the $13,175 and change. After looking at this, and once they complete the work at this time, we recommend that we pay $250,332.97. That's what I penciled in on the side. That reduces out the patches that they didn't complete. So there's still an outstanding $13,175.42 until they complete their punch list.
Will that cover the punch list?
In my numbers, you're looking at maybe about $5,000 or $6,000 worth of work they have to complete. So they'll be looking to come back and complete that work.
Robbie, anything you want to add?
No, there's some sealing that needs to be completed, and the backfilling with gravel driveways wasn't completed either. Those are the two main things according to the contract that they neglected to do so far.
Some of the skin coat looks pretty thin over on the sole. Where are we at with that? I mean, it seems like if you can see through it, it's gonna peel up when you take the flowers.
Yeah, Scott and I talked about that. It is, the way the contract was written up, and Scott can add to it after I'm done, is that was essentially a level course. It's what it is. It's a little thinner than what obviously we wanted. Next year is either gonna get overlaid or tar and chipped or, whatever works out. But that is something that on that list that Scott sent to Alan Meyer to be addressed. I'm not exactly sure what the pounds per square inch for that road was, Scott, but I think you and I discussed that, and I'm not certain that they're gonna do anything about that until they come out and look at it, but I can't answer it for them.
Yeah, we did discuss it with them. I discussed it with them, and they did have almost an immediate pushback that, look, you did put down a leveling, you were putting down an overlay, which was the intent. The idea was to level out the roadway, fill in the worst voids. Some of the areas we're hoping it wasn't gonna be as thin as it was, so that you could buy some more time on saying 2-3 years until you have to do something with it. I think unfortunately on the Somme, that one went in thinner than it needed to on some of those, and it was the later part of the night when they put that part in, and it wasn't a real good opportunity to call them out on it before they got out of there, but we did let them put them on notice, and they said they'll look at it and see if there's anything they can do. I'm guessing they might try to seal that up, like they would on the edge of the patches to try to keep it from rattling, but I don't know if we'll be able to get them to do too much more.
So
Really
if that's
was-
the case, if they did what we asked them to, are we gonna look at sealing that then in the next year's project?
I think unfortunately, I think that one's probably sooner
It's
than,
either gonna get overlaid or.
Overlaid
Yeah,
or?
that's the idea. That road is not 100%. That's sort of what we expect that road to have. It's just unfortunate that they were a little thinner than what they should have been. But that road is to be scheduled for oil and chip or an 1.5-inch overlay next year or the following year.
Okay.
So that road is not a scratch and overlay this year. That's basically a scratch and a level this year to get us to next year.
the worst parts were coming up the hill near 143, and then when you kind of plateau at first up there, there was an edge along the fine. I don't know the properties there, but that got covered in how we wanted it. Unfortunately, the one lane just had a couple of those spots, 3, 4 of them that it just rattled a little more. So I think it does kind of force the hand of trying to come up with an answer next year.
All right, as long as they did what they were asked, we really can't.
I don't think the blending and sealing was the quality that we were used to. I mean, they did what was on the spec, but they didn't go above and beyond in my eyes. I mean, it's okay, but it's maybe we just got really good work the last couple of years. This wasn't of the same quality we're used to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad enough, but it's not what we're used to.
And I think the patching had a little bit of that
Yeah.
as well.
Just-
So where we patch, are we planning to chip it or put it next year, or chip it part of it, or overlay, or?
Overlay the whole thing.
What's the
I
plan?
think on Richmond was the idea of possibly
Yeah,
leaning towards an
Scott and
overlay.
I
on that
talked
one more.
briefly today. We have about 130,000 left in our roadwork budget, and I think we should try and put out some bids or at least get some ballpark prices of what some stuff that can be done this year yet, and utilize that money, and then next year continue with the overlay of the stuff that was done this year.
And if nothing else, just get a couple of quick quotes on what somebody would throw at it, see if it would stretch to make it worth doing a quick bid if we want to put it out.
All right.
Well, as long as you're confident that we have retainage to cover the work.
For what they have to do yet, yes.
I'll make a motion with that.
Second.
All in favor?
The only other one was the Kerry Rounds on. That plan came through, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the board already approved waiving the review since there was a small portion in the project. Part of that included seeing it before the final approval. I have those, Jen, I'll had them with me, looked at them at the end of the meeting here at the end of the day, and then, yeah, so then,
Those are the actual updated ones. He has the original from the.
the only thing that really changed, they asked them, they did a second plan that looked at the grading on the, or the slopes on the site for whatever reason their engineer wanted them to. They showed more of a right of way on the driveway that comes in. Short of that, there was not much of significant change. I don't see there's any reason that the board should change the way they approached it. So I think it's just, the way they have it is a signature for you on there that just states that they were waiving the right, township's waiving the rights to review the plan.
All right, I make the motion to do that. All in favor? Aye. All right, sewer report. Anything else, Scott?
The 895 Pleasant Hill Road sold it, well, I'm sorry, not sell, the bank took it back at the sheriff's sale on Friday. We had updated our liens prior to that, so we will not get paid since the bank took it back and it was not sold, but our liens are there and protected. The deed will be transferred in 45 days, so we'll work with Jen to communicate to Pam so that they know that that is transferred.
So when the bank sells it, which they should.
Correct, we would get the money.
Okay.
So we're up to date with our liens. The questions would be, I'm sorry, no, we're not up to date with our liens. I believe Jen received a response to one letter, for 516 Park Road, to her letters, and that one was paid down significantly. So the first question I would have, would you want to have our office to file liens for 329 Southview and 11 Cubitt, for which letters were issued and no response was received?
Do we have any correspondence with you?
It's my understanding you did not hear anything from either of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would that we file the lien on both of them.
It's pretty significant.
Yeah. I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
And then we had filed liens previously on 22 Berg, 554 Park, and 455 Main. The board was just to proceed with filing civil complaints and obtaining personal judgments against those property owners as well. We typically file the liens, follow it up with a civil complaint, that way we have 2 judgments. We only get paid once, but we have 2 ways to collect.
I make a motion to do that.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Yes, this process is done. I was advised that Attorney Hartman is still working on condemnation actions.
All right.
And then you have the ordinance approving, I believe it's the rules and regulations for Lyons Borough regarding sewer operations that was advertised.
I make a motion that we approve that.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
That is all I know.
Stack Bank's report, you read that, I don't think there's no questions that you had there.
Something about a valve that's broken though.
Yeah.
Like they were gonna address
Yeah,
it.
it's they're working on it. Roadmaster's report, anything to add, Robbie?
No.
How's the mower working?
Good. Really good.
Yes, we talked about that earlier. Roof's coming
Yes.
this week.
Yeah, I'm not
That's right.
sure exactly when they're gonna get started. They're postponed because of the weather, obviously, but, there is trim dropped off. We have it here. It's just a matter of having nice weather to be able to start on it.
Looking forward to it.
All right, payment of the bills.
General fund, we had check numbers 10989 to 11036, including EFTs for $181,187.29.
Make a motion to pay it. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
State fund, we have check number 2122 for $1,121.10.
I'll make a motion that we pay it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Light fund, we have check number 2161, $736.35.
I'll make a motion that we pay it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Sewer fund, we have check numbers 3098 to 3105, including EFTs for $291,384.54.
And that's paying back the township from the sewer fund.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we pay it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Walnut Town Fire Escrow, check number 2165 for $2,470.
Make a motion that we pay it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
And Virginville Fire Escrow, check number 2164 for $2,470.
I'll make a motion that we pay it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
We had reviewed the recycling last month, and just to review, I did speak with Jane Meeks about the residential part of it, because that was a question as to how much we would receive for the residential. Currently, we get approximately $10,000 from the commercial part, which, as I'm being told, 95% of that is from DECA.
Right.
That's where we're getting all that money from. If we do have the drop-off site here, it would be possibly about $2,000 extra a year for that, because residential, we hardly get any money right now. So it would only be about $2,000 extra that we would get in grant money. She said it would be about $10 per ton that gets removed per year.
Okay.
So if that's something that we want to address, we would be interested in it, that would be the actual amounts we would receive for residential.
Is that for a long ton or short ton? Oh. You're talking about tonnage, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
tonnage for
Is
the
that a
recycling.
long ton or a short ton?
I don't know, to be
I
honest
don't
with you.
Well, a long ton is 2,220 pounds. That's where they get their extra money. And a short ton is 2,000.
Yeah, I don't know.
No,
They do that
no
a lot of
idea.
places.
It's not very
So
attractive.
you're paying what, $110 a ton, 30%?
They don't have a ton, they just do it by the container.
By the container,
By the
but it's
30-yard
container.
Yeah, 30-yard container, 185 a pull. Well, that's cardboard.
Well,
That's for
she
cardboard. What
She
about
recommended
plastic?
not to do cardboard because cardboard, when people are dropping them off, they're not going to be breaking them down, so you're gonna lose a lot of space in that. If we're gonna spend time in breaking down the boxes,
Yeah,
that's
we're
one
not
thing,
gonna-
but she did not recommend doing that.
But the single stream,
Yes,
30-yard is 185 a pull. I don't know, you probably don't get 2 tons in a container.
Well, then we get rain in it.
What's that? All right, we're gonna defer that to another meeting. You guys have any questions? It just don't
now I
seem
just
to-
wanna let you guys know what the residential part of it would be, that we would happen to go with, that's the amount of money we would get from residential.
Yeah, that wouldn't even cover 1 month.
Right.
Expensive. All right. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Any public participation from the floor? You're not public though.
Well, I am a resident.
Oh, that's right, you are. Go ahead, you're not under your public.
Okay, going back to the Walnut Town project, where Swell Bean and everybody's here, is there anything that we can do or get started on to get something done on the other side of the railroad tracks? How do we go about, I don't know how to say it.
Is that still in our township?
Well, to a certain extent, but obviously water flows downhill, and all that debris is coming from on the other side of the tracks, which is
That should
essentially
still
washing
be in.
down through
You're,
this
you're halfway
area.
up that hill, I think.
So.
Yeah, right around the bend on Keller Road.
It's like this permit, the scope of work for that permit, how does that get extended, up further than the immediate?
What needs to be done up there?
I don't know, I'm not up there.
That's where everything's floating down.
There's all the debris or.
Well, you got tracks coming from the other side of the railroad track. I know they're taking all the railroad ties itself and putting brand new ones in. And the old ones are sitting there on piles. So as the water's catching that, it's going down over the bridge.
Are there actual full tiles coming down?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're holding
Yeah.
stones.
That's Norfolk Southern guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, call that new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got I don't know the answer to that, Rob.
Well, that's what I mean, like, we can fix that stream, but eventually, that stuff's gonna flow down and we're gonna be sort of in the same boat we are now, just unless you.
I think what, it was just,
Maybe you wanna
a
start
lot
there
of
and
the
see what the
permits
problem
have
is.
they'll cap you at some kind of length. And I think there's some of them that are 500 feet, that they'll say, that's the limit. Once you go beyond that, then you're looking at,
The joint permit application and those.
I don't know if you'll get, even if you get approved for an emergency permit, if you want to go in excessive length, I think you're gonna get pushback from them saying, no, you're gonna have to stop here. And you can do that work and then retroactively get your permit. But if you go more, they're gonna say, well, you're into a joint permit, we're not gonna go beyond that. I just
Well, I think the first
just
step is
assume
go
that
there.
that's probably
Don't
gonna be
FEMA,
something.
don't FEMA get involved with that then? Didn't FEMA get involved the last one? These guys did
On a storm like that, they might.
Yeah, they did.
They did, see, the FEMA will probably step in because that's all Democrat owned.
Well, Robbie, why don't you take a ride up there and see if you can figure out where at least the railroad ties are coming from? The big stuff. The sediment, I think that's just coming off the hill.
It's just from like, right at village down.
Yeah. And I think it starts at Village Motors and comes down from there.
Yeah, Village Road has a retention pond right along the tracks there, we used to swim in with the kids. You go in the woods there, it's deep.
Well, if you go on that town road where it gets steep, I mean, it washed both sides, and the state was in there today, and they were putting in,
It's a big rip.
But he has a spring running out there.
on the steep hill, that house that sits right there,
There's nothing.
his
up
bank's
above.
all shaved, there's,
Stream comes up.
it was 4 foot deep, I think, somebody said, but you can see, volleyball sized rock in there, culvert on the other side. I mean, they must have put,
That culvert's
I
really.
don't know, several truckloads of large rock in there along just to stabilize the road today. So I mean, that's on the steep, so I don't know if that, comes down through, but basically, yeah, it's somebody has to walk that and kind of maybe figure out where all that sand, and, I mean, I know, because when it rains a little bit, anything that's a little bit of a pool fills in with basically sand.
And there's a lot of sand.
Yeah.
See, there's also a bridge that goes from one property to the other that he uses
Well,
to cut the grass. And when the logs come down, the railroad ties, it stops there, then it pushes up over the bank and,
That's why I say we gotta stop the large debris first, the stuff that's floating down.
Maybe
That's
you
the
can walk
easiest
it, Robbie,
thing.
just see where it's coming from or what you think we can do.
What about like all of the debris that's in the yards? I mean, what's the action for that? I mean, when you got a triaxle load of sand and rock and volleyball sized rock in a yard, what's the action for that? What's the acceptable method of restoring to a yard? That's my question. I don't know. You can answer that. If it's not in the stream, but it's closed.
Yeah, but it's a side of the street.
It's 50 feet, so you gotta be 50 feet.
Yeah, away. 50 feet is kind of the
Yeah.
discretionary number
Yeah.
to stay away from the stream.
If there's no answer to what, I mean, you got yards that can't do anything.
That's a tough situation. Maybe some of that we can address if we do something with the
I
street.
know what was done in the past, I didn't see nothing. Is that the route we're gonna go? Or?
Well, you're gonna ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be trying to get as many
Don't
answers.
see it. Yeah.
Find out.
Brian, maybe you know Mr. Shapiro. He cut through a lot of red tape in Philly. That's all we need. We're asking for 3 years and he's did it.
I'm on recording here, Ron, so I got to say, they can rebuild a bridge in 1 week. It
Yep, we can't
depends
get
what your voting
permit.
base
3
is.
years.
When you're in the national spotlight, there's a camera on you.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna happen quick.
All right, anything else? I make a motion we adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Scott will call your office.
Yeah, I'll probably send you a draft email tonight. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to insult somebody.
I just figured that I know that's why I just figured. I told him it was good to ask his name because I was like, oh man, he's been in trouble.
I didn't know